I'm like imagining trying to piece a dead body back together. But I imagine it's not this easy. I need to wash this down with some wine. Hi guys, welcome to Flambae. My name is Yanni. Today we're gonna be making beef bourguignon, or as the French call it, boeuf à la bourguignonne. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Please like and subscribe, it really helps us content creators out a lot. I think when people think of French food, they think of very fancy foods, but this is like a French provincial dish. Beef bourguignon is made with a really inexpensive cut of beef. It's made with beef chuck, which is made from like cow shoulder. So what we do is we slowly braise it in red wine. That breaks down the connective tissue and the collagen in the beef. Beef, how many times can I say beef in a sentence? So after a couple hours, it really breaks down into a soft, tender, bite-sized, falling apart pieces. It's so yummy. It's really not expensive to make. It just takes time to stuff it in the oven and wait for it to break down. Julia Child is a very, very lengthy process when she makes it. I'm actually opting for Ina Garten's rendition of this French classic. There's fewer steps, it's like less fussy. If you want, you can actually go to Ina Garten's recipe and follow along as I make this. I'm gonna be taking some liberties with it, not straying too much. Let's start. I've cut up this beef into 1-inch cubes, roughly. You don't have to go too crazy with it. After you cut it up, lay it out on a paper towel. What we're gonna do is we're gonna squeeze it and pat it dry. This is gonna give us a nice browning on the outside, and pat it down. Squeeze out any moisture, take some salt, season the pieces, do the same with black pepper, make sure you get everything, set your meat cubes aside. So what I'm doing is slicing this bacon lengthwise, stacking these two pieces, set these aside. So the recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic. I always double or triple garlic. I love garlic. I'm from a Greek family. It's very important that we overload everything with garlic. Just a rough chop. We can lay this flat, take the onion, slice it lengthwise. Set your yellow onions aside. We're gonna cook them in the Dutch oven later. Take your carrots, creating 1-inch rounds, and dump them in the bowl with the onions because they're gonna go in the Dutch oven at the same time. Traditionally, you use lardon, kind of cut of bacon. It's really thick. I want it to go until it gets a little crispy and until a lot of the pork fat comes out, because that's going to be really important in flavoring the dish. The bacon is browning on the edges. The oil level has risen, like Noah's Ark is about to happen. It is time to take this bacon out. What's really important with working with this beef, you do not want to overcrowd the pan. Whoops. Do not stack beef on top of other beef. Only one layer at a time. They're done. They'll soften when we slow cook them in a bit. It's kind of amazing how much they shrink. The nice thing about doing things in 4 batches is that you can perfect your technique. I don't like cooking them all the way through in this stage. This is so tough. I'm chewing on 1 cube right now. I literally cannot even get my teeth through it. It's so tough. All right, get it out. Time to chuck in our vegetables, season with pepper, salt. As you can see, these onions are sweating. They've taken on like a golden brown exterior around the edges. So that means that we are ready to graduate to the next step. Toss your garlic in, all 4 of your cloves, or as much garlic as you're comfortable with. Half a cup of cognac. Take your lighter, carefully step away. Ooh, yes! Gorgeous. Let it cook off for a bit. My eyebrows are luckily still intact. All right, let's toss in our meat and bacon. What makes this recipe so amazingly this recipe is the entire bottle of wine that you pour into this dish. Now, the type of wine you choose makes a very big difference. I think using a lighter bodied wine really allows the aromas of the aromatics and the meats to come out. A lighter bodied Sangiovese wine takes first chair in the orchestra, whereas using a more full bodied wine is like a coloratura soprano cutting through the entire orchestra, and that's all you can hear. What? Did you not like that explanation?
No, I did not.
In this case, I want a melange, a blend of all these ingredients. You know when you're like sometimes cooking, you saute onions and carrots and these aromatics and you get that like brown stuff at the bottom of the pot? That stuff is called fond. It is absolutely packed with flavor. So what we did is when we tossed in the alcohol, it's called deglazing. Deglazing removes the fond from the bottom of the pan and it adds it to the dish. So it's not just stuck to the pan, it's like you really, really have these rich flavors in the food that's cooking in here. What I'm doing is filling up the rest of the pot so it just about covers the beef with beef broth. I don't have beef broth, so what I'm doing is using water, covering it up to that point. And then I'm using this product that I absolutely love. It is called Better Than Bouillon. It is like using bouillon cubes, except it's hydrated. It's from concentrate. Here I used a heaping tablespoon of tomato paste and a little bit of thyme. Use half the amount if you're using dried than what the recipe says for fresh. That is so good. I actually think you could even use a little more thyme. Ooh, my elbow. And I want more black pepper in this. I've started trying to taste my food during most stages of cooking, just so I know, A, what does it need, but B, how does this dish and how does the flavor develop as I cook it? It really makes me feel like, I don't know, like I have a say in it, like I have the power to affect this. It means that you can think more critically about cooking. Yeah, I rarely follow recipes anymore. Like I'll look at them and I'll see what they're doing to guide me in what I do. But now that I can figure out and break down, oh, why is this part of the recipe important? I feel like I've been able to get more creative. Let's turn our stove off. Set a timer for 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Okay, 1 hour and 15 minutes and counting.
See you soon. It was delicious, the meat fell apart. Surprisingly, it just needed a little more seasoning. So I left it in so it could soak into everything. Yes, I'm aware I'm using a burgundy glass for a white wine. Okay, so I'm at a crossroads here. I'm kind of confused about what to do. I'm unsure. In Julia Child's recipe for this boeuf bourguignon, what she recommends is straining everything after it's finished braising and then taking that sauce that's at the bottom and reducing it down so it's spoonable and you can put it over all of that beef and those vegetables that you've just slow cooked. Ina Garten's recipe says that you should take room temperature butter, mix it with flour, so create a roux, which we covered in omelets, and using that to thicken the liquid that's inside the Dutch oven. So what we're doing is thickening this liquid, and each strong kitchen woman does it in a very different way. I'm unsure of what to do. Can you even make a roux if you're not heating it up over the stove? Does room temperature butter and flour make a roux? I want to do a test. I want to cut this in half. Half of it on the stove, half of it room temperature, mix it with flour, and then add water and see which one is thicker. Do you want a glass of wine? I need coffee. I'm sure Ina tested this out a lot of times. I trust her with my soul. Ina, if you see this, you can have my firstborn children. I can have firstborn children. Yeah, let's say I have multiple rounds of children. What if I have twins? Twins run rampant in our family. But so you only birth one child at a time. Okay. Okay, let's do it. So this is 4 tablespoons of butter. These are these little baby sticks, 4 tablespoons. I'm going to cut this in half. Like, I'm just curious to see how heat affects these things. So blue bowl is our room temperature roux. Let's add 1 ounce of flour because you need equal parts flour to fat to make a roux. What do I do with this now? Do I just like mash it with a fork? And I'm supposed to incorporate them before I throw that in the pot? Black bowl is our stovetop heated roux. Okay, I'm gonna throw some butter on the stove. If this pan will ever stay. What is going on here? We're gonna toss our butter in. I really feel like I trust this more. This is real. I know this exists. So this is the stovetop cooked roux. It is thicker, it's like a paste, and this is the room temperature mixed roux. The consistencies look a little different. The color looks different. I'm curious to see now. Half a cup in here, half a cup in here with heated water to maintain a controlled experiment. The flour has hydrated and dissolved pretty completely here. I think it's literally the same. Okay, so there's nothing that happens between the flour and the butter with their combination. Oh my gosh. Because these feel like the exact same thing to me. The only difference is that this is cooked more, so it has like a nuttier kind of flavor. Well, this one obviously tastes better. I feel like nothing happened during this experiment. They're both pretty much the same thing, it's just this has a different flavor. But the consistency is fairly consistency. It was a joke. The consistency is fairly consistent. Okay, relax. Okay, so I did a little research. I could have found this answer very quickly online. Apparently, it's not the cooking and the melting the butter over heat that creates a roux and allows it to have thickening properties. The only reason you cook it is to get rid of that floury kind of flavor. So it's for flavor. The only difference is that this is cooked more, so it has like a nuttier kind of flavor. In this case, when we're throwing this roux into a Dutch oven that's already heated, that flour flavor is gonna go away. You're already heating this up, but it's gonna be in there. You don't have to do it over the stove. So that is roux à la boeuf bourguignon à la eine garten deconstructed. So I have in here our room temperature butter. I'm going to add flour. I wouldn't have known this had I not gone through this little experiment. If you missed the last like 10 minutes of this video, this is gonna be used to thicken the liquid in the beef bourguignon. It means we don't have to spend 45 minutes reducing the sauce. Get all that stuff in there. I'm just gonna stir everything in. This is lightening in color as I do it actually. Now, mushrooms. You want to remove the stems from the mushrooms. It's really simple. Don't even use your knife. They snap out. Just grab it and pull out. For baby bella mushrooms, which have fairly firm stems, you just rip them. I don't feel like using frozen onions. I could. I don't understand why we need them. If you know why we need them, please comment below. I think we have plenty of onions from earlier. We don't need to add them right now. 12:03, can you see it on the clock, what time it is? That's awful.
I could definitely zoom.
That's awful. I hope nobody zooms. Well, you're gonna zoom in anyway. It's midnight right now. I have roughly chopped my mushrooms. Heating up my cast iron over here. What I'm gonna do is take 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm gonna saute my mushrooms for about 10 minutes, sweat them out, cook them slightly. Think of it like a topping, like sprinkles on your boeuf bourguignon. All right, enough mushrooms, back to me. I'm kidding. Oh. Okay, so I've let these mushrooms cook until brown. I'm going to add them to this Dutch oven. Let it simmer now. Oh my God, this smells delectable. You can smell the flour and butter. Wild. Raise the flame on this. I'm gonna let it simmer for about 10 minutes. If the cap is on, water can't evaporate. If the cap is off, it can't evaporate. It'll reduce. That is our goal here. All right, our bread. How many pieces of bread do you want? You're not gonna eat bread with a stew? A thick piece. It's like half liquid, it's a stew. I have little garlic pieces. I'm just gonna take them and rub them onto the loaf. You really want only 1 piece of bread. So when you're doing this, you want to use the side of the garlic that you've sliced through. So not the skin of the garlic, do not use the entire clove. Cut it in half, use the side that your knife has sliced through. New plates, new me. Wow, okay, so we let this cook for about 2 hours. Let's say you want a medium rare cut of beef, that should be about 130 to 134 degrees Fahrenheit. We're cooking it now in 250 degrees Fahrenheit in a slow cooker, to be fair, in a bunch of liquid, to be fair, but it's still possible to overcook it. The longer that the Dutch oven stays in the oven, the higher the temperature will grow. So you don't want to leave it in there for over 2 hours, really. Sure, it'll fall apart, but it'll also become dry. Poke it. As soon as it starts falling apart, take it out of the oven. Don't leave it any longer. All right, let's take a taste. Oh my goodness. I mean, the beef just falls apart, truly. You can rip it apart with your fingers. You don't even have to rip it. You can pull it slightly and it breaks. Okay, let me remove this because you're not supposed to have white wine with this. I mean, it's so good. I love because the red wine isn't overpowering. You still have the carrots in here. You can taste the onions. The bacon fat, it just adds so much flavor to this. I just had a bite with mushroom and with carrot and meat. Oh my God, the tenderness level, like it was here, it was really good. It just, it shot up to here. This isn't even in frame. Like, it's so good. It was this tender. Maybe start a little earlier than I did. Most of the cook time for this dish is the Dutch oven just sitting in the oven. You can be on your phone, you can do whatever. It's not very complicated. You just need to take the time. You could probably do it with a slow cooker in like half the amount of time, I'm not gonna lie. But there's something I love about doing things analog. Oh, ah! Okay. All right, guys, thank you for watching Flambae. My name is Yanni. Your name is Beef Bourguignon. Guys, thank you so much for watching Flambae. My name is Yanni. I appreciate you guys watching this video. And I appreciate this beautiful dish I made even more.
Some jumping jacks.
Why? What do you think this is gonna do? I'm not asleep, I'm drunk. Cut. Now before I